Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back with another video from Totally Not Mark, continuing with the Naruto reviews. This is going to be sick. He is covering the Konoha crush and search for Tsunade in this. So this is like the aftermath of the Chunin exams. Orochimaru is there to finally just do his thing, and you've got Gaara Naruto fight, and then, yeah, search for Tsunade. We meet Jiraiya. Oh, that's going to be sick. So let's see what Totally Not Mark thought about this part of the story, shall we?
Off the back of the last arc, the Chunin exams, I was ready to dive into more material almost immediately.
Hell yes.
Just like last week, with the completion of this week's batch of manga volumes, I can finally admit that the story of Naruto has defeated me. I now want to read the series all the time, and because of that, I now fear the day that will eventually inevitably come where I will have to stop reading Naruto.
Yeah, wait,
the
it
first
ends.
arc acted as a brilliant introduction to the characters, themes, and familiarized myself with Kishimoto in a way that heightened my enjoyment. The second arc elevated all of that material in ways that felt natural and exciting while uncovering a lasting evil in the series. But in this arc, the scope of Naruto exploded with more characters, lore, and potential than I ever anticipated.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm finally starting to understand why Naruto became the cultural icon it is today.
A
main feature of this story, and indeed its world, since I began covering it, has been the Hokage, their history, what they represent.
There is a lot in the world. It's not as in like depth as One Piece, but
given that the fourth died long before this series began in a battle to save the Earth, and that the third is now very old and sort of in the clutches of Orochimaru, facing almost certain death, the selection of the fifth Hokage is up in the air and of vital importance to secure the village's future, and thus are the circumstances and stakes heading into this video's material. And speaking of which, I think this might be the best opening an arc has received since I started reading. Effectively, the world Naruto's grown up in is suddenly plunged.
Setting up Orochimaru was cool as well. Yeah, it's like, ooh, we got a bad guy now.
And the Chunin exams began in absolute stability. This one begins in utter chaos.
It is chaos. It is chaos, and I love it.
Backed up against the wall, all the while Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru are being ordered to chase after Sasuke to stop him from overextending himself, with the expressed order that once they achieve
because of the curse mark and that.
they need to wait for further instructions. I can only imagine the anxiety that would flow through me if I was assigned something like that.
Like, what?
Effectively being
I'm a kid.
asked to walk from home on a rescue mission of sorts, not knowing if I'll ever return to see my community in the same state ever again. There's such unbelievably high stakes with the entire infrastructure of this world hanging in the balance. It's such an unbelievably effective attention-grabbing opener that flows brilliantly from the abrupt conclusion to the Chunin exams prior. Furthermore, I can absolutely appreciate why pursuing Gaara is immensely important to the likes of Sasuke on a narrative level. And it all ties back to his foundational motivations from the first and second chapters. Sasuke's expressed interest before the Chunin exams even began was to fight worthy adversaries to increase.
Yeah, he wants to know he's getting stronger, yeah. Because if he's not getting stronger, then he's not doing something right for his quest.
Knowing that his brother is much stronger than him, Sasuke needs to be as sure as he can possibly be once he does eventually track him down.
When he eventually comes down to the fight.
And so, Gaara is a new focus.
Yeah, he's an obstacle. It's like, I need to beat him.
Gaara is the first training ninja in the history of the exams to finish the Forest of Death in that time frame and without sustaining any damage. In other words, Gaara
it's a
at
challenge.
this point is stronger than Sasuke's brother was when he underwent this challenge. Of course, assuming he underwent this challenge. And so, proving to himself that he can defeat Gaara is a great indicator of how strong
he needs to
Sasuke
know,
is
so he can gauge himself,
brother at this point in his life. And the eventual pursuit of Sasuke by the likes of Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sakura is really fun, incorporating a diverse number of characters, not limited to Gaara himself eventually. But of the battles leading up to that effort, Shikamaru's is the best, I think. Working in a very similar fashion to his prior conflict during
mate, he's such a clever man. Boy. Clever kid.
He's really won me over with his relaxed, laid-back...
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it? It's such a drag.
Plan of action in seconds against the pursuing bad guys, all within a frenzied panic. Furthermore, Shikamaru, during this sequence, brought to my attention an in-universe explanation that excuses for me one of the most irritating aspects of modern and classic anime.
Okay.
With this shadow-possessing power, there's now an in-universe reason for people to stand around blustering and talking their hearts out with no action, thanks to his special shadow ability.
That's really funny.
That's not the only fight that starts taking place towards the beginning of
That's class.
Section.
That's really funny.
It's time for...
Mate, this fight.
Versus the third Hokage,
Oh my god.
Hiruzen.
Yes.
When I first started reading this fight, one of the things I did expect to show its face were the levels of sentimentality it ended up brandishing. There are some powerful moments of
Yeah, you can tell that they had like a sort of bond back in the day. Oh my god, yes! Fighting the first and second Hokage as well.
And when you lay out the material like that, it's easy to see the obvious opportunities for emotional connection. But the way this fight paces itself and dishes out fascinating exposition both about Orochimaru as a child, his relationships with Hiruzen, and of course the history of Hiruzen himself as a youth, you can't help but feel that much more invested and connected to these characters. Not to mention the world they're involved with. The story in question is called Naruto, but this fight, while having little to nothing to do with that character, stands on its own 2 feet and breathes.
Definitely, Jesus. There's a lot of history in this that you don't even realise until later on. You're like, whoa!
Elemental bending on the scale of Avatar: The Last Airbender provides more spectacle than pretty much anything we've seen before this point, and it reminded me of how old Hiruzen really must be.
He's seen a lot.
Stories, both from the East and the West. The older mentor character is a stereotype that depicts someone as decrepit one moment, while in another moment showing
proper OP.
Naruto, while this is still somewhat true with this character, it doesn't romanticize the toll aging has had on the great third Hokage, with time itself and the passage of it being a major focus of this conflict between these 2 characters. Orochimaru breaking established rules and laws, extending his youth beyond what is natural.
Oh yeah, his weird technique, man, for immortality.
Better than anyone we've ever seen in the series, forced to fight and defeat his former masters, the first and second Hokages, all the while taking out Orochimaru as a threat, albeit at the cost of his own life. It's clear
the Reaper Death Seal.
Given that at first he's mostly on the defensive, which Orochimaru points out at the beginning is really unlike him. It's honestly a remarkable show of force that helps to put into perspective how absurdly powerful he must have been in his prime.
Back in the day.
This is him now, taking some of Orochimaru's absolute best, and while he does die, losing the battle, he secures the safety of those around him
by taking Orochimaru's arms,
eliminating Orochimaru's ability to weave signs, thus in essence winning the war. The most effective
no jutsu for you.
The most important aspect looking to the future concerning this fight, however, might be that of what we learn about Orochimaru in these flashes to the past. How he was hoping to be the 4th Hokage and failed in meeting the requirements, and now he seeks to have all the knowledge of all the different styles, granting himself eternally.
Yes, I want to live forever as a snake.
This fight was visually beautiful in the manga, and in the anime, the animation only served to elevate that material. I particularly enjoyed the back and forth Hiruzen had with his former masters. The special effects animation on display.
Mate, the moment where he nearly got the 4th Hokage out as well, they stopped that.
That episode. I do, however, have one small criticism
of
this fight.
What?
While it's perfectly natural for Orochimaru to remain something of an unknown going into this encounter, Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage, felt still unfamiliar to me despite his presence in the beginning of this story. And due to this, the narrative had to dedicate substantial sections to exploring Hiruzen as well as Orochimaru.
I suppose that's kind of true, yeah, he wasn't really been in the story that much, and then, yeah, this happens.
What narrative exposition there is, I still relatively enjoyed. I mean, the entire purpose of this fight at the end of the day was to give us a history lesson and build up the world further.
Yeah, and then what's happening next, we introduce more people and learn more about the history and that.
Hokage sacrifices himself to rid the world of a great evil. One last time,
the Reaper Death Seal.
He cares for deeply by removing Orochimaru's abilities, which I am only now realizing is another very similar narrative move to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh.
I'm getting a feeling they might have taken some notes from Naruto in this respect.
And
while this fight did bookend this section of the story, the real meat of the conflict, proving to have spectacle to rival that of even the Hokage level threat here, was that of Naruto versus
Gaara. Yeah, man. Whoa. Boof. Get away from Sasuke.
Naruto versus Gaara.
Right.
The showdown between Gaara and the various characters that try to stop him is brilliant. Beginning with the closest in pursuit of the young man, Sasuke, our favorite little moody boy.
Moody boy, I love it. Emo.
Mainly because it's between 2 people with hateful motivations. Sasuke attempts his 3rd and possible suicidal attack, willing to throw his life away at the chance to proceed.
It's like, I have to beat him.
Single-minded goal. All the while, Gaara, a once small reserved child, now more closely resembles a monster.
Definitely, that One Tails is coming out.
Contorts to form an accurate representation of the hatred and suffering inside his mind. I like that in making this decision, Sasuke began to once again succumb to the curse of Orochimaru, and just as he's being overcome by it, and facing the finishing blow from this new monstrous Gaara, Naruto
just kicks in.
With this
Bam!
being perhaps metaphorical or emblematic of what's to come for Sasuke and Naruto, that Naruto will in the future save him from himself. And once
I think you've seen some things that happened there, Mark, to say that.
very same hesitancy. Only Naruto frees up, and since then, it's been pretty smooth sailing. The source of his determination and bravery has always been that, regardless of the opponent, he knows that he's willing to go further, to push himself more than they are. And to him, at this point in his life, that's all he has. He doesn't believe in or rely on what comes naturally to him like Sasuke does. He doesn't believe in his intelligence the same way Sakura or Shikamaru would. And really, it's easy to see why. He's never been told to believe in those facets of himself, and as a result, has only tested himself in the realms of his own determination.
Yeah, like it's just him.
He wants to achieve his goals so badly that he's willing to push himself farther than anyone he knows. That's where his confidence comes from, and that specifically is what makes Gaara an interesting and imposing character for Naruto to face. Consumed by the demon inside him, Naruto is not only facing
oh, the old Naruto music.
But he's also face to face with a manifestation of a reality that could have been his own, and in many ways still could be. Like Gaara, he has a demon inside of him, and this fear causes him to hesitate, further putting his friends in danger. The seeds for this encounter were sown.
It is nice to see the comparisons. Like it's Gaara is what would happen if
what he was all about.
Naruto could have been Gaara.
The same coin, we got another perspective. Having been depicted as a
Here we go.
monster and showing all of his personality defects,
He has his own swing as well.
Flashback to Gaara's past, and in it, the first panel displays Gaara sitting on a swing alone, looking on as other kids his age are having fun. Remind you of anyone? The flashback itself is short, but it certainly paints a lonely, tragic, and harrowing picture.
Even more tragic than Naruto, yes, definitely. Considering his dad tried to kill him.
Feared and despised him, coming to a head with the only person in his life choosing to make an attempt on his own life, marking the point where he would become the person he is today. The reasons I love
sad
battle shonen as a
past.
genre are numerous. However, as I was watching this climactic final
Isn't
battle
it
between
Mother
two
that he has on
giant
his
kaiju in a
head,
ninja-themed
the
story
symbol?
about believing in yourself, I was reminded of one specific reason. The genre allows you to place incredible philosophical, symbolic, or thematic weight behind the various techniques that are implemented.
Symbolism.
To show you what I mean, I'll use Dragon Ball as an example.
Oh,
given
here we
it's
go
the story
again.
I'm most familiar with. Towards the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, the events of the Saiyan saga get underway. Goku dies, his son's kidnapped by his arch-nemesis, and aliens invade and take over the world. It's pretty standard stuff. And just like this arc in Naruto, where we see a giant frog slice a sand monster with a sword,
So cool.
the visuals and craziness of the Saiyan saga, what with its giant monkey monsters, massive beam struggles, and depiction of the afterlife, gave it more than enough eye candy to put on a wild show. But the reason that this arc was successful had much more to do with the simple story that was being told at its foundation, and how the actions of the main characters reflected the philosophies that they represented.
Okay.
When Vegeta arrives, he doesn't show affection for his allies or anyone.
No, whatsoever.
In fact, he kills his oldest
Yeah, he
comrade
kills
the
Nappy, yeah.
second he's no longer useful to him. In this way, Vegeta acts as the opposite of what Goku represents in the story. Having given up his life at the beginning of the arc to save literally everyone, Goku travels to Otherworld and after exerting more effort than any mortal in history across Snake Way, requests the help of someone he has never met so that he can continue to defend others.
Right.
And once he touches down on the battlefield, having been brought back by his friends, he finds himself as the one thing standing between everything he cares about and certain annihilation, all with the technique that he managed to acquire thanks to the philosophy he believed in. In this way, Battle Shonen has facilitated not only a beam struggle, but a struggle of ideology, between ego and humility. The beam struggle wasn't a cornerstone moment in a battle that has gone down in history as one of the greatest of all time, simply because it looked visually
Yeah, it's like, it looks dead pretty. Ah!
It's because of what it represents. And so, across the series, techniques like the Spirit Bomb, Kaioken, and Kamehameha didn't just look cool. Through their acquisition
They had
and connection
meaning.
to the story, they each represented a part of Goku's identity. And in that same way, during this battle with Gaara, Naruto's philosophy and way of life is challenged directly by his natural opposite in Gaara. And to combat this natural opposing threat, Naruto uses the techniques that represent who he is and what makes him a terrific character. After overcoming the initial shock that came from confronting a demented and psychotic version of himself, early on in the conflict, a tried and true means of building up tension to a big reveal took place. Gaara would knock Naruto to the floor, berating him and poking what he saw as
It's like,
holes in his
yeah, it's like,
idealistic
you are wrong.
outlook on
Naruto's
life.
like, no, I am not.
Time again, Naruto would stand back.
just keeps getting up, yeah.
As I pointed out in his flashback, Gaara's struggle has been about his lack of belief in others' ability to love him.
Yeah.
He refuses to trust in anyone and so lives only for himself, hurting others maybe before they had the chance to hurt him. There are numerous stages
Strike
where
first.
Gaara slips up and Naruto manages to land a significant hit before he eventually runs out of chakra to help anymore. And realizing this, Sasuke stands up for him and tries to create an opening to allow both him and Sakura to escape. In response to this, Naruto throws out a beautiful quote.
Yeah, like his ninja way comes from like his meeting with Haku, so yeah.
When people are protecting someone truly precious to them,
That's when they can be strong.
Become as strong as they must
Yeah.
be. All the while assuming the same pose he did when he was standing up for Iruka in Chapter 1, Naruto explodes with chakra, resulting in a very similar scene and page spread. This is the technique that represents the love his friends have for him and the love he has for them.
Yeah.
It's the manifestation of Naruto's desire to protect those he loves. The perfect thematic counter to Gaara's hateful...
Yeah, it's like the opposite, yeah, it's brilliant.
...that's haunted him his entire life. But that's not even the best part. As I said, there's a giant frog versus giant sand
yes,
kaiju battle.
it's class.
And even here, this same narrative approach is present with stunning effectiveness. I would even argue to greater effect as Gaara makes decisions that make this contrast even more pronounced. Naruto's summoning of Gamabunta is a very important touch Kishimoto added to make this picture as effective as it ends up being. If we want to break this down, Gamabunta and Naruto's ability to summon him in the first place is directly tied to the Fox Spirit's chakra, which was only now possible to access thanks to Jiraiya granting Naruto
yeah, he goes the seal
to
thing,
make his
yeah.
own destiny by removing the seal that blocked this chakra. Naruto now summons Gamabunta because he has the control to make the Fox Spirit work for him, which happens to be the exact opposite of Gaara's ace in the hole, wherein he effectively surrenders all the agency he has to
the beast,
by falling unconscious, thus unlocking the full power of this spirit. And so, when described like that, the scene, while we can acknowledge on a surface level how much is visually happening on screen, I mean, come on, look, there's a giant frog
Yeah.
with clothes and a sword. While it
So
has
sick.
a lot going on, if you look at what this story is about, it becomes much more simple and effective. It's not just a crazy monster battle with the fate of the known world on the line. It's Naruto using the good that he's received in his life to try and reach Gaara, someone that's fallen so far from reality, and boy, does Naruto reach him.
Yeah, man. Headbutts him.
This
It's,
is the natural
sick.
end to the major conflict of this arc. With Gaara out for the count, destruction after coming to an end in their village, and the Hokage after losing his life during the battle with Orochimaru, the progression into the next arc feels seamless.
Yeah, man.
Some have criticized Dragon Ball
Oh,
Super
then
in the
Itachi
past
and,
was how little the
Sammy
arcs
are just
themselves
chilling.
flowed
It's
into
like,
each other. Everything felt as though it had a clearly defined and cut ending, which can be okay for some people, but for me, I much prefer when the events of the prior story inform the next.
Yeah, definitely. It flows better. Super did just like finish a season and then just do another story.
For everything that's transpired, it's the consequences of the prior arc that inform the
Yeah.
events of this one.
そして昨日火の国の大名と設けた緊急会議で地雷やそれがお前に
Oh, you don't want it. But I know someone that could do it.
Jiraiya is such a lovely character.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Quirky and light. From the beginning, I saw a very Naruto sort of energy within him, reinforced perfectly in this section by the imagery of his training days. And it's this position, the 5th Hokage looking to be filled, that this arc most concerns itself with. This upcoming arc concerns itself
Tsunade.
with answering predominantly two questions. What does it mean to be Hokage, and who will be the 5th? And on this journey, we follow Jiraiya.
I thought it was just going to pan down to her boobs and stuff, but then it's like, what? But the necklace is important, isn't it?
By Jiraiya himself as being perfect for the job. The story feels well thought out, and the events within it are thrilling. So, let's jump into it.
Yes.
During their travels to find Tsunade, Jiraiya gives Naruto specific training that is quite
Ooh,
advanced.
let's
It involves
do the
chakra
Rasengan.
manipulation in 3 separate steps. I found this section very fun, but within it I began to realize something. Recently in the story, it's felt, at least from an optical point of view from other characters, that Naruto has undergone a fairly significant change. A sudden realization has occurred that he is in fact destined not for mediocrity, but instead something significant.
Yeah, man, he's on a journey
The
to be
script of the
Hokage.
character in a sense, but I don't necessarily think in a bad way. The journey from his birth through the Land of Waves all the way through to the end of the Chunin exams has been, in many ways, completed. He was an insecure kid without a place in the world.
Yeah, now he's got his ninja way established, and he is gonna be Hokage someday now. It's actually... It can be a real thing now.
It was a goal set by him to show the world that not only is some loser kid worth something, but is capable of achieving the highest rank.
He's done a lot.
In other words, he was determined to make something of himself,
yeah.
despite what others might have thought. But with his travels having yielded surprising changes in his mindset and outlook as seen during the Gaara fight, he now has no reason to have such a chip on his shoulder. He's proven himself not only strong to the people who care about him, but most importantly, himself. And so, strictly speaking, in a sense, this emotional journey for him as a character is over. He spent the entire story trying to prove his worth and reliability to various people in his life, and now that he has that, Kishimoto then decided to give him more promise and responsibility than any other character in the series.
Mate. Mate. Oh my god.
Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior? For the entire series, Naruto has wanted to be this person. And now we get to see how he fares when the crippling pressure of this responsibility becomes a reality. Have lost, died, or had been taken away by Itachi had it not been for the likes of Sasuke coming to save him. Or eventually
Jiraiya definitely saves the day.
Takeaways from this encounter ends up being Naruto once again wasn't ready. The poor kid was just about figuring out how the world as he knew it worked.
And then he was about to get kidnapped.
It is suddenly changing. However, thankfully, the last few arcs have helped him grow. And unlike last time he found himself unsure, he has something and someone to fight for. The training that Naruto undergoes has specific emphasis on this philosophy. To find self-reliantness and master a technique in stages with as little help as possible. Jiraiya, totally aware of this, forces Naruto to self-soothe and teach himself, offering up a collection of scenes that
he shares popsicles with him and it's cute.
Sit back and watch. Seeing his struggles, his injuries, and flashes back into the past to gain deeper insight into the workings of what he's doing was wonderful to experience. Seeing his doubt, his frustration, and the pain he goes through to achieve this frankly incredible feat in such a short amount of time stands in direct contrast with the likes of Goku, who seem to manage incredible feats of strength with comparative ease. These training sequences with Jiraiya highlight something integral to the progression of this character and really this story, I think, for me. It highlights, or rather points out, that despite the shift in value people now see in Naruto, with him effectively being a great significance, he's still the same kid, struggling and trying his best to succeed.
He's definitely going to do everything he can.
And that's
no laxy-daisyness for Naruto, no.
The death of the third Hokage is about responsibility, and how different characters with different backgrounds react to sudden or long-existing responsibility. Orochimaru, and in a smaller way for now, Itachi are the forces...
Oof, that got memed to heck. That was last year, wasn't it?
Naruto to improve and train. But these themes are also explored with the likes of Jiraiya and even Tsunade to meaningful degrees. With the position of 5th Hokage requiring someone to fill it, both Jiraiya and Tsunade are faced with that responsibility. Jiraiya almost immediately shifts the responsibility to Tsunade, and in doing that is forced to accept the responsibility of training Naruto and locating Tsunade, who he thinks is a better fit.
Yeah, she's a better candidate.
Tsunade, on the other hand, is a much more interesting character with this line of thought. While Jiraiya
the gambling problem, the drinking, and...
his own assessment of him not being right for the job, Tsunade is faced with the dilemma of which his options directly conflict with each other. Save the village by becoming the 5th Hokage, or assure the village's destruction by helping Orochimaru. And
he wants us to help him get his arms back, doesn't he? Yeah, I remember. Because he promises he can bring back Dan?
Paints a picture of a person who just runs away from responsibility, only living for herself and what she wants. And now she's faced with what would effectively be something she can never turn back from. And in exchange for denying the responsibility that comes with being the 5th Hokage, Orochimaru offers an alternative: to reanimate her loved ones. This obviously represents the ultimate want in her life, and so when she's faced with the offer of responsibility the 5th Hokage comes with, she immediately declines, much to Naruto's astonishment and anger, further emphasized by her dismissal of the 4th Hokage's sacrifice, citing it as
look at that sassy pose.
This was such a satisfying scene. A clash of two literal opposing ideologies.
Yeah, man.
One who is willing to do anything to achieve the status of Hokage, and one who thinks it's point.
Yeah, it was like, why would I bother? He's like, what? But that's my pinnacle.
Outside, one where Tsunade chose not to use more than her fingernail, and to great effect she uses it, but, and this is the best part, the responsibility Naruto represents in this conflict makes itself known through the technique he's been training. The responsibilities that he's adopted during this training session, the technique that represents this responsibility, shocked Tsunade and gives her an idea. Let Naruto train 1 week, and if he can master the Rasengan,
then
she'll say he's deserving of becoming Hokage, in addition to giving him her grandfather's necklace. And if he fails, she takes all his money. What makes this timeline specifically interesting is that it also happens to coincide with the time Orochimaru wants an answer to his offer from Tsunade. The means with which these two stories, Naruto's as well as Tsunade's, intertwine and inform each other is both natural and fascinating. There's a wonderful scene where Tsunade's friend Shizune brings Naruto and us up to speed concerning Tsunade's tragic past filled with loss and terror. Seeing this allows us to empathize much more readily with her, but for Naruto, it only invigorates him. Right before she tells Naruto about her backstory, he complains that she's stopping him from getting the rest he needs to train tomorrow. However, after this conversation, he informs her that he's going off to train immediately. This search for Tsunade's section of the story is the absolute best Naruto has been for me as both a reviewer and a fan of shonen storytelling. Over the first 115 chapters, while they did shine a light on the themes of determination and responsibility, they were never the focus quite like they are in this arc. Because Naruto is such a brilliantly fleshed out and fully realized character, instead of having to dedicate time within the story to serve his character to bolster these traits, his character can now be used to service the story for this reason, to represent the themes of determination and responsibility. And in using him this way,
it is very motivating when you see Naruto like train for stuff or just trying to like get people to like just know that, you know, there are other choices now.
Honestly, a turbulent character, one that's caused a tremendous
Don't
amount of
let
conflict
things
in the
defeat you.
story, and in this final portion, she confronts Orochimaru and she decides to take the more difficult option. In the face of everything Orochimaru is offering, she says
No.
And that journey from feeling indifferent or ambivalent to feeling true responsibility for not just herself or her friends, but for her entire village, she feels a responsibility to become what they need her to be.
Oh mate, when she fights Kabuto, it's so sick when he like moves her, makes her nerve system wrong so that she has to move one arm to move the other. I think that's what it was. It's been a while. Oof, take that.
Possesses, he manages to inspire belief in these ideas for those around him. And that's when we see that all the focus and effort that Kishimoto has put into the story converge into one point. A point that he has built up, and it's this. This moment honestly gave me chills. To have an entire character's undergone be so succinctly punctuated and presented in one sentence.
With all three of them summoned stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man.
From this point on,
absolutely
the
sick.
rest is action movie window dressing, but even so, the battle with their summoned spirits with all three of the shinobi greats was intense and satisfying. I love watching Orochimaru getting beat at the end too, by the way, but really it was the quieter moments that have stayed with me in this story more than anything else. There's a minor visual gag during this material that I knew had a lot of potential for emotional resonance. Tsunade's insistence on appearing young, using her chakra to manipulate the way she looks, changing herself from a 50-something-year-old woman to one that looks as though she's in her 20s. I thought that this was an interesting idea for two reasons. Firstly, I liked that it immediately helped to reveal what sort of temperament she had and where her values lay, but also because I thought it was her character's biggest flaw. The story of Tsunade is one of a troubled soul trapped in the past, filled with resentment, unable to move on from the horrible losses she suffered during that part of her life. I thought it served as a brilliant metaphor for her current mindset and beliefs in the beginning of this part of the story. And when the ending came, that powerful realization and life-altering shift in mindset, so too did her barriers for throwing her life away for a cause worth the sacrifice. And symbolically, after exhausting herself completely in a desperate and powerful effort to save everyone and rise up to become the 5th Hokage, her illusion fell, revealing her actual self. Free of illusion, it's a beautiful touch that really sealed this as such a phenomenal arc for me. It was simple, had a clear message, and was powerful in its execution. In essence, it was focused. It managed to harness everything I loved about this story and in the process created a fantastic character that happened to be female. I've been vocal about my issues with the likes
Crazy.
of Sakura, but I'm also willing to point out a job well done when I see it. Tsunade is a great character that had a brilliant arc in this story, and with the 5th Hokage now after being selected and accepted, Orochimaru still on the run, and a massive world of possibilities ahead, I can confidently say
what happens next? I'm trying to remember what the next bit is in Naruto after this.
I cannot wait to see what lies ahead of us
Oh,
on this wild and
yes.
inspirational adventure.
It's
Be sure to
the sound
subscribe if you want
for
to see more
in
episodes of
Sasuke
Naruto
in.
like this, or
Oh
you
my
don't
god.
want to miss an upload. But until then, I've been totally not Mark. I'll see you all next week, and thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, it's the Sasuke retrieval stuff, isn't it? I think. Yeah, yeah. Mate, so it's like the end then, huh? It's this. Is it going to the Sasuke Naruto fight as well? What? What? I thought these reviews were going to go on like a little bit longer, but that's cool. That was a nice little look back on that. I'm loving this. Like, original Naruto's like sick, absolutely sick. Not that I don't like Shippuden. It's just I feel like Shippuden isn't as good. But anyway. Yes, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link is in the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month is all that helps support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys very much for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys next time.